You're probably going to see some dogs because I'm upstairs. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Giver. It's another week. Melissa's here alone. I just thought this is honestly a very impromptu recording. I just got back from Pilates and I was like, I need to, just get on here, give you guys an update and kind of let you know what's been going on in life lately. I shared on my story a few weeks ago about my journey to kind of rebalance my hormones after what I put my body through last year. And I got a lot of questions about that. So I want to go over that, but I'm getting ahead of myself because I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update about what's been going on in our lives. It's summer here in Canada, which is like everyone emerges from their homes. My dogs are crazy. Iain's gone right now, and I feel like they act super weird when he's not around. They know he's away, so they're super protective and hyper focused all the time. A little bit anxious, but that's okay. They're protecting me. Iain is currently in Florida. He went to go visit Christopher and Courtney and Bradley, and I'm very jealous, but I'll be there soon. We're still figuring out immigration, so that's why I wasn't able to go. So I just stayed home with the dogs, and it's okay. I have the house to myself, so it's kind of nice. What's new? We went last weekend and we got our motorcycle licenses. So it's funny. Iain booked something called an M1 exit course, which is like a training for motorcyclists. And at the end of the training, it's 2 days, pretty intensive. At the end of it, you get what's called in Ontario your M2. So that's basically, it's your motorcycle license, so you can drive alone. There's no restrictions on your license. You do have to test again after riding. I think it's between 18 months and 60 months to get your full M license, which then you're fully licensed and you don't have to test again. But the M2 exit course the M1 exit course is a 2-day training outside on little motorcycles. And then at the end of it, you have to do an evaluation and either you pass or you fail. So Iain booked this a couple months ago for both of us, and it's not cheap. It's quite expensive. And of course, I said I would do it with him. I love doing things with him, especially things that he enjoys and he's passionate about. I could take or leave riding a motorcycle, to be honest. It's not something that I'm oh, I want to do that. That's so fun. I'm not really a thrill seeker like Iain is. I'm quite content living in my routine. And my idea of a good night is curling up with hot chocolate and reading a book. So I said I would do it with him because it is a very long course and it's obviously more fun if you're doing it with someone. Now, rewind to 2 months ago, Iain, before you do the course, you have to go and you have to write a written test to get your M1. So there's a place near our house that does it every second Wednesday in the summer. So you don't have to go downtown. It's easier to get to. It's a little quieter. So they're there every second Wednesday. And Iain was like, oh, I'm going to go this Wednesday. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready. I haven't studied. I'm going to fail. I'm not prepared. This is absolutely my personality. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. You do it soon. You just have to do it before July 6th. And I was like, yeah, no problem. This was in May. So life happens. Iain goes, he passes. He said it was a little harder than he expected, but he didn't have an issue passing. So he wrote the test, he passed. He's ready for this course. Our course actually started on Wednesday, the first week of July on a Wednesday. And lo and behold, the Wednesday morning comes along and I have not written my M1 yet. And you have to have your M1 to do this test, or you can't, or to do this course, or you can't go. You don't get a refund. It's your fault. You lose all your money. So I'm so stressed out because I've left it to the last minute. If I fail this written test, I guess you can keep writing it once you're there. You have unlimited tries. You just have to pay every time you try. So I wake up on Wednesday. I realize I have a lymphatic drainage massage on Wednesday morning. So I wake up. My massage was at 8 a.m. So, and you're not allowed to drink or eat before. So I slept as late as possible. And I think I woke up at 7:15 and I was like, holy shit, I have a massage. I ran out of the house, drove 30 minutes to get to my massage. My therapist ended up working on me for almost 2.5 hours, which I did not expect. I think I thought it was a 90-minute appointment, but she's gracious and amazing, and she just wanted to get me head to toe. So I was there for 2.5 hours, and after the massage was over, I was like, oh my God, that was heaven. And I feel like I disassociated for 2.5 hours. I was so relaxed, but now I have to go write this test and it's way later than I thought it was. So I get in my car, I go get a coffee. I'm like trying to wake myself up. I have studied a little bit. I studied the night before. Honestly, Iain was podcasting with Fuad and the boys. And I was sitting at the table with him, like writing practice tests while he was doing the podcast. And I felt pretty confident. I was like, okay, this isn't bad. And if I fail, whatever, I'll just pay and try again. So I drive to the drive test center, which is about 45 minutes away from where my massage was. And I get there at around 11. And I'm waiting in line and the lady looks at me. She's like, we're not accepting people anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, we have lunch at 12 and there's already too many people in the queue. So we're not accepting people until after lunch. And I was like, oh my gosh, when is lunch over? And she was like, come back at 12:30 and we'll start the lineup again. So I had an hour and a half to kill. So I just left and I think I sat outside for a little bit. I did the practice tests again. And then I started to be like, okay, no, this is good. I just have more time to study. It's fine. But I made sure to show up like right at 12:15 because I didn't want to get at the back of the queue again and not have enough time to write. I show up at 12:15. There's already probably 12 people in line waiting to be seen. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm screwed. Like I have to do this today. If I don't get this done today, Iain is going to be so annoyed at me. He's been telling me for the last 60 days, go to your test, go to your test, go to your test. I've been procrastinating because I'm not ready. I haven't studied and I've been being a procrastinator. That's literally my personality. You've probably noticed the podcast never going up on time, and that's just how I am. I'm always busy and I'm not a lazy person, but in terms of like procrastinating silly things, it's just a really bad habit of mine. I also avoid things that like make me a bit nervous. So I wait in, it's 12:15. I'm waiting in line. Thank God the woman recognized me from before. And she was like, whoever was here before lunch, please come up and we'll get you sorted first. So there was probably about 5 of us. And I'm so polite. I was just like letting everyone else go before because I didn't want to feel rude. And I finally get to be seen. And she was like, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here just to write my M1. And she said, okay, great. Here's your paper. Go sit in line. So now I go to another room and I'm sitting in line and I have my paper with my timestamp on it. And I'm not even kidding. I think I was sitting there for probably an hour and a half before I was called because all these other kids before me were writing their G1s and they're young, they're 16, they're nervous, they're taking a long time. They can only have 2 people writing tests at once. So it just took a long time. So I went in there finally at about 2:00 and the lady is like, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here to write my M1. And she said, okay, great. Are you registered for the training course? And I said, yeah, and it starts tonight, so I need to pass. And she started laughing. And I was like, what happens if I fail? She's like, well, then you go back to the end of the line, you pay again, and then you come back and try again. But we close at 3:00. And I was like, okay, so I need to one and done this. There was no option. So I was pretty chill at that point because I was just laughing at kind of the series of unfortunate events. And I find there's always this, like, I don't know if it's called Murphy's Law, but when you leave things to the last minute, you're like asking for everything to go wrong. If you leave late for work, there's going to be more traffic than normal. That's just how life is. And it's probably a lesson to not leave things to the last minute, but it's not one that I have obviously learned. So I go and I write the test, and I'm going through the questions, and they're very different from what I practiced, and they're actually pretty hard. So it didn't take me that long. I got through it, and then she marked it, and she was so nice. Like, I'm sitting in the corner while she's over there marking, and like you have to write 3 separate tests. And every time I did one, she was like, you're good so far. You're good so far. And then after the third one, she's like, congratulations, you passed. And I was so happy. I was so relieved. So I called Iain and I was like, I passed. Everything's good. I'm so excited. We ended up eating dinner, and then we went to the course, which was like a classroom portion on the evening of the Wednesday. And we show up, and the instructor's like, gear check. Where's your gear? And I'm like, what gear? And he was like, did you not read the website? And I was like, I read the email. And he was like, did you read the website? And I was like, no. And I literally felt like a 12-year-old getting scolded at school. He was like so disappointed. You know what I mean? Like, Iain and I are like the youngest. We weren't the youngest people there, but we were youngish, and we're obviously unprepared. And I was like, no, I'm so sorry. Like, we'll make sure we have our gear for Saturday. And he was like, okay, but Saturday we start at 7:30, and you're going to need to show up and get a gear check before 7:30. So now you need to be there at 7. And if any of your gear is not acceptable, we're going to have to turn you away. And again, you just lose your money. So I was like, okay, well, get our gear. It'll be totally fine. Not a big deal. So we do the evening portion. It's, I think, like 3.5 hours. And then we go home. The next day I worked, so we didn't have time. On Friday, we went and we're like running around the city trying to find helmets. You had to have helmets, gloves, and, well, you're supposed to have boots, but I had, oh my God, this is another story though. I was just going to use hiking boots that I had at home. And then you had to have a jacket that was a certain fabric and had like elbow and shoulder pads, I think. So we went and got all that. And honestly, it was so fun. I love shopping, especially when Iain's into it and we can do it together. So we went and got all that stuff on Friday. And on Saturday morning, bright and early, we showed up at like 7 a.m., got our gear checked. Everything was fine. And it's hot, okay? It's 30 degrees. It's full sun. And you're outside all day. We're standing in a parking lot. That's all there is. There's no dwelling for us to go into. There were 2 outhouses that we were allowed to use. And they provided like Gatorade jugs full of water. So if you needed to refill your water. But other than that, from 7 a.m. until 5:30 p.m., we were outside. And Iain told me that the first day, like, you don't really ride motorcycles. You're just kind of learning how the bike works. You're sitting on it, getting comfortable with the clutch, with the brakes, with the like foot pedals, all these things. And we're getting ready, and Iain looks at me and he's like, oh, I think they're splitting us into 2 groups. And I was like, okay, well, obviously we're going to be together. And he was like, no, I think we're separated. And I was like, well, go ask them to put us together. Like, I need to be with you. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you need to teach me. And he was like, I think they separate couples on purpose. So you're learning from the instructor. You're not distracted, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, let's fucking go. So I'm nervous. I'm not I knew I wasn't going to naturally be good at something like this. I'm not good at using my left hand for anything. I can't eat with my left hand. When I used to party in university and smoke, I could never like drink my beer and smoke with my left hand. Like I couldn't do it. No one should smoke. Don't smoke. Smoking's bad. I don't smoke anymore. But I knew that I would be really bad with the coordination and my body awareness to my entire left side. I don't know what it is. Some like neuro connection. I'm just not good at any muscularity, muscle mind connection on that side. I'm also not a very coordinated person. I don't have like the best body awareness. So I was nervous. I was like, this is going to be really hard for me. So we started on the bikes and I was super uncomfortable. I was really jerky, and probably like 2 hours in, the instructors are like, okay, get on your bike, turn it on, like we're riding. And I was like, I'm not ready. Like, I don't even know what this clutch is. Like, I don't even know what side the brake is and the gear shifter is. I don't know anything. And for those of you that don't know, the bike has 2 brakes. It has a front brake, which is the right lever. And then it has, this is a good test for me, it has the rear brake, which is a pedal on your right foot. And it has a throttle, which is, again, the right handlebar. So you're twisting, and that's to go. And then on the left, you have your clutch, which is your left lever. And then you have your gear shifter, which is your left foot pedal. And you have to coordinate using all of these. So I was so overwhelmed. We were learning how to ride at really slow speeds. So we're staying in first gear, and you have to balance the bike while driving really slow. And it's honestly harder on a bike to ride slow because the throttle is really sensitive. So for you not to kind of accelerate and stay at a constant speed at low speeds, you have to use the clutch and the rear brake and your throttle. And then you have to also balance a bike going slow, which is obviously hard. So it was a mess. I was getting kind of comfortable by the time that we got to lunch, but it was so fucking hot. I was so sweaty. I was trying to stay hydrated. I had my electrolytes from Raw, and I was trying to like be cognizant of how I was feeling, but it was really hard. So at lunch, we actually just sat in the truck and blasted the air conditioner. We ate, we rehydrated, and then we went back. And I felt fine, but I also felt like I was almost like starting from scratch after we had our lunch break. And the instructor kept telling me, because I was stalling a lot, going from like stopped to starting in first gear. And he was like, you need to use the throttle more. You're like letting the clutch out with no throttle and you're stalling. So I started to try to get more comfortable giving it more throttle. We were doing a stopping exercise. So you go up to second gear, and then you have to stop when the instructor signals to stop, and they're just making sure that you can get on the brakes quickly and stay controlled in a straight line. So we're doing that. I do the stop exercise. Everything's good. The instructor's like, okay, next. I go to like start from a stop and go to the back of the line to do the drill again. I fucking popped the clutch. I don't know what I did. I popped the clutch. I revved the throttle, and I popped a wheelie, and I fucking flipped on my back, and the bike fell on top of me. I have never been more terrified in my life. I landed flat on my left, like upper glute. It hurt so bad. My head actually did not hit the ground. So I held my head up, just landed on my butt, and the bike kind of went on top of me and fell beside me. But I kinked my neck too, because I was holding up my head from hitting the ground. So I screamed, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on my back, and like the instructor had moved the bike off of me, and he was obviously like so worried, and he was checking on me, and he was like, what happened, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see. And I explained to him, like, I popped the clutch. I had to do an incident report. They wanted to make sure, obviously, that everything was fine. They checked my helmet to make sure that there was no contact on my head, which that's what the helmet's for. And I wasn't going very fast, obviously, but it was so scary. And the instructor looked at me and was like, do you feel safe getting back on the bike? Like, do you feel physically okay? Do you feel mentally okay? Are you in shock? And I wasn't in shock. I could tell that I was like not in shock, but I was very scared. And you guys, it was such a hard decision for me to make, whether I was going to get back on the bike or whether I was going to throw in the towel, because I was so scared. I was so nervous that I was going to do it again. And you're trying to balance this decision, right? Because you're like, am I wanting to quit because this is hard and because I'm uncomfortable? Or am I wanting to quit because I actually am unsafe doing this? And he gave me like 30 minutes he gave me probably 10 minutes of just like, I sat in the shade, I had some water, and I put some ice on my neck, and I was like thinking about whether I wanted to get back on. And he came over and he checked on me. He's like, what do you think? And I was like, well, what do you think? Like, you need to tell me. And he was like, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you it's okay to stop, and you can come back and have another chance. And I was like, oh, but if I don't get back on now, I feel like I'll never get back on. And he was like, yeah, but like, you need to make sure you feel safe. And I was like, can I just have 30 minutes practicing like my starting from stop to make sure that I'm like comfortable with like the clutch and I'm not going to pop the clutch again and all these things. And he was like, yeah, sure. So he was still watching me, but while everyone else was doing drills, I was literally just like starting and then stopping in a straight line, starting, then stopping. And I did that for a little bit. And he came over and he was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I think I'm good. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I can do this. And he was like, okay, like, let's go. And I finished the day. I think we had another break like a couple hours later, and I went to use the restroom, the outhouse. And I went up to Iain and he was like, how's it going? And I was like, I popped a fucking wheelie. And he was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, oh yeah, I like dropped the bike on top of me. And he was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, but that was really fucking scary. And the rest of the day was very unenjoyable for me. I really did not have any fun. I was so scared and I was so nervous and my body was so sore. My nervous system was fucking shot. It was work. It was a lot of work. And by the end of the day, we're driving home and I was proud of myself for sticking through. And I was really excited to go to sleep. And then we got home and Iain and I showered and we ate. Iain fell asleep on the couch like right after eating dinner. I could not sleep. I didn't really sleep that good that night either. I could feel that my nervous system was just like not wanting to calm down. And then the next morning we went back and it was more drills and it was way harder drills. So I started to get the vibe from the instructor that I wasn't going to pass. He said to me at one point, just so you know, if you don't pass, like, it's okay. You just come back and you get a private lesson for an hour and then you get to redo your assessment. And I was like, okay. He took me aside actually and was helping me privately for a little bit. And he was like, I'm just going to work on what I know, like hint, you need to work on. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I was just getting the vibe that he's obviously done this for a very long time, that he could tell that I wasn't going to be successful in this, but I still was going to try. And I had to, we had lunch that day and we were sitting in the truck again eating, and Ian's like, how's it going today? And I was like, I feel better, but like, I still don't think I'm going to pass. He was like, you'll be fine. Like, you'll pass. I'm like, no. I need you to tell me that it's okay for me not to pass. Like, I don't want you to be mad at me that I like wasted your money and that you wanted to do this with me and that I wasn't able to to pass. And he obviously looked at me. He's like, of course, it doesn't matter. Like, I think you can pass, but if you don't, it's okay. And as soon as he said that, all the nerves and the pressure and everything was just like released. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to learn as much as I can today. And I'm just going to become as good as I can with what I have. And the rest of the day was really fun. We started testing at about, I think, 3:00. And we went over and we were all sitting, getting ready to test. And it's so intimidating, you guys, because there was, I don't know how many people there were. I would say close to 40 maybe. And they set up this course with the pylons and they walk everyone through together the course. And there was, I think, 6 different drills that you had to perform. And every mistake you make, you get what they call a demerit point. And you're allowed a maximum of 11 demerit points. Or sorry, no, if you have 11, you fail. So 10 or less, you pass. 11 or more, you fail. I think. If I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. These are nuanced details. So they walked us all through the drills that we had to do. And I'm like, okay, these don't seem so bad. And Ian's like, oh, this is a piece of cake. Like, this is so easy. This is so easy. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And I'm like, no. I might not. Like, I'm not very consistent. And at certain, like, if I'm going to be herky-jerky and stalling everywhere, I'm going to get demerit points out the yin-yang. I'm not going to pass. So then they start testing. And this is intimidating, you guys. There's 2 people going at once in a staggered timeline. So obviously, like, you're not in the same drill at once. But everyone else is just sitting, watching you. I was sitting with Iain and, like, a bunch of guys that were in his group. And I just, like, I had to tell them. I'm like, you guys, I popped a wheelie. I might fail. I need it to be okay if I fail. And they're like, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Everyone goes, okay? Everyone is passing, like every single person. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to be the only goddamn person in this entire course that fails this licensing. So they eventually call Iain and he goes. They called me very shortly after and I had to go. The first drill was the hardest. And I'm sure that was by design. So you could just like get it out of the way. And I fucking nailed it, you guys. It was a sharp right turn at a slow speed to an acceleration in a curve and stopping in the box. And then turning around, doing the same thing the other direction. And I nailed it. I was so proud of myself. And then I did all the rest of them and I did screw up once. And actually, no, I screwed up more than once. Let's be serious. But by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I still am not sure if I like did enough to pass. I had 10 points. She looked at me. She's like, you passed by the skin of your teeth. And I'm like, yeah, but I passed. And she was like, yeah, you passed. I was so happy. I can't even explain to you the immense relief that I felt. I was so proud of myself, and I am now a licensed motorcycle driver. So that's really, really exciting. We were looking at bikes a lot the last couple days, and I think we found one. Iain is a little angel, and the first bike he buys is going to be a little bit smaller so he can teach me. And then both of us will get comfortable on that smaller bike. He'll upgrade to a bigger bike and I'll just keep the smaller one. That is what is going to consist of the rest of our summer. I'm very excited. Iain actually got called for surgery. He has extreme arthritis and a few other things going on in his elbow, and it's causing him quite a bit of pain actually. So, and it's impeding his training. So he's going in on Wednesday. Yeah, he's going in on Wednesday to get that operated on. And the doctor's going to clean it out and fix up any of the tendons. And he's going to have a little bit of a recovery during that period, so he won't be able to ride then, but he can still teach me. So I'm going to make him bring me back to a parking lot, and we can ride around our neighborhood too. We live in like a very quiet suburb with pretty big, quiet streets, and it's perfect for practicing. So I'm really excited, and I'm also really excited for Iain to get his surgery. He's been waiting for a long time. His elbow's been bothering him, I mean, probably for 10 years, to be honest. And it was one of those things that didn't look bad, so he kind of just ignored it and dealt with the pain. So I'm really excited for him to get that fixed up. And he has a really good doctor that got him in really quick. So I'm thankful for that. So he was supposed to be in Florida until Thursday. He got the call yesterday that his surgery is going to be on Wednesday. So he changed his flight. He flies back on Tuesday now. And then I'm going to be Nurse Melissa while he recovers. So yeah, those are two pretty like exciting updates. What else? I started seeing a new massage therapist. She works out of her home in Stittsville. So anyone who's local that watches this, if you want her info, I'll link it below. But she specializes in lymphatic drainage, like facial manipulation. If you guys have seen on Instagram or TikTok, wherever you are, it's kind of like the new thing to get facial massage and like buccal massage to replace Botox. And she specializes in that. I have not done that yet because I got some filler, which I'll share with you guys too. And I didn't want to have any facial massage done after my filler. But I've been seeing her for body sculpting, she calls it, which is she uses tools and like a lot of like slapping motion, to be honest, to like drain and tighten the skin. And then I did see her for a lymphatic drainage massage too, which was amazing, just to help with like detox and things like that. I'm really trying to focus on overall health as I'm leaning away from kind of what I put my body through last year. I want to make sure hormones and detox pathways and everything like that are working optimally. So she's helping me with that. And I also started going to Pilates. So I started Pilates last week. I've done 2 classes and I'm going to Framework in Ottawa. And they do something called the Legree method, which is a little different than traditional Pilates. I think it's a little bit faster pace. So she really pushes you to kind of always stay working. So time under tension in Pilates is actually insane. And the Legree method, the movements are still slow. So it's very, like the lunge, you take an 8-second count to get down and an 8-second count to get back up. But in between exercises, there's no break. So she really wants your heart rate to kind of elevate and stay up. And it's just a really quick 45-minute class. And I cannot tell you how out of shape I feel when I'm there. My core, my obliques, my like stabilizers, it's crazy. So I'm so thankful. I've been going to, her name's Britt Bryden. She has a pretty good Instagram too. I can link her below. But I've been going to Framework and I've done 2 of her classes and I'm obsessed. I'm so happy that I started going. I can't wait to keep going. They're opening up a studio in the West End in Stittsville, which is really exciting. We've also been playing with the idea of opening something in Stittsville. So Stittsville's becoming a really cool place. I'm really excited about it. The West End of Ottawa is alive and thriving. We're still working on our fertility stuff. Iain is on a protocol to get his sperm count up, and that is it's honestly a really hard process, and I really take my hat off to him because he has been so amazing and so mentally tenacious with this journey. He's had to completely stop his TRT, which any man that has been on high dose testosterone for a long period of time, or even been on low dose testosterone for a long period of time, I think you can empathize with what it means to actually cold turkey stop any exogenous testosterone when your body is not used to producing its own. So it's very promising, and I'm really, really proud of him. He's been so amazing, and he's been working really hard to kind of maintain his body and his mind and all these things during this kind of hormonal change that he's going through. And he's just been so amazing. I'm so proud of him. But it's a process. So every 3 months we're doing testing, and we're just waiting for the next step. And our doctor will let us know what that is and when it arrives. And in the meantime, what I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this video, I'm working a lot on nourishing my body in the ways that it needs to. So last summer, I went down a pretty intense path. I was struggling a lot with an eating disorder. I was severely malnourished, and I was abusing thyroid medication. So what that did was it put me in a state of malnutrition. I got hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is when you lose your cycle because your body does not have enough nutrients. And my TSH went down to a level of 0 over the last year. And honestly, I'm actually really thankful that I'm on the journey that I'm on right now in terms of my fertility, because I don't know if this would have felt like such, which is so sad to say because being healthy is so important, but I don't think it would have felt like such a dire thing for me to rebalance my hormones if I wasn't trying to have a baby. I think I still would have been able to stay in that cycle of an eating disorder when you kind of care more about how you look than your health. So I'm actually very thankful that everything worked out the way it did, because I wasn't in that state for very long before I was like, something's wrong, because we were trying to have a baby. So I was obviously tracking my ovulation. I was very cognizant of my cycle. And immediately when that left, when I stopped ovulating, I was like, what am I doing? And I had to see a nutritionist, and I'm working with Kale Diagnostics, and we were able to quickly come to the conclusion that I was severely undereating and abusing thyroid medication, and that your body cannot function optimally at that. As great as I felt having abs and being able to fit in anything that I wanted to, it is not healthy, and it was not mentally healthy either. So I'm really thankful that we caught that really early, and the last 12 months have kind of been me figuring out what it looks like to be healthy and be happy in my body and nourish my body, but still love the way my body looks. And that consisted of me coming off of thyroid medication and letting my thyroid stimulating hormone come up. I'll give like a brief synopsis of the thyroid and how I understand it to work. I'm not a doctor. I went to school for neuroscience. I actually didn't learn anything about thyroid, and I think I had a tiny section in one class about endocrinology and hormones. You have your thyroid, which produces thyroid stimulating hormone. So I'm going to call that TSH. TSH is then converted into T4, which is then converted into T3, which is kind of the active thyroid hormone. I'm going to simplify this. So hypothyroidism is when your body is not producing enough T3. And that could be because there's not enough TSH. It could be because there's not enough T4. It could be because your body cannot convert the T4 to the T3. There's a bunch of reasons why that could happen. There's also something called hyperthyroidism, which is when your body has a very high level of T3. And that is when you see people that can't keep weight on and things like that. So when your body, it's a negative feedback loop. So the more T3 that you have in your body, the less TSH that your thyroid is going to release, because there's enough circulating in your blood. It does not need to keep the cycle going. So I was taking exogenous T3, and that helps ramp up your metabolism. and helps you lose weight, whatever. And I was taking that. And so my body, was getting the signal that I had enough T3, that I had too much T3 because I was taking too much. So the thyroid actually shut off. It was like, there's too much. We need to slow down the production and stop producing TSH. Now, I don't know the specifics. I honestly hope that one day I can maybe get the practitioner that I'm working with at Kale Diagnostics to come on the podcast, and she can probably break this down better for you. But this system does not work alone. It works in conjunction with all other symptoms. So cortisol, your sex hormones, your gut, everything. So when the thyroid isn't functioning properly, it trickles down to everything else. So the first step was for me to stop the T3 so my thyroid would start producing TSH again and everything would kind of realign. Now, the body obviously doesn't react that quickly. It's not like, oh, they're gone, let's go start working. It takes a long time. So I actually there was a period of about 2 months where my energy was so low. I was trying to eat normal. I was trying to eat healthy. And that actually meant eating more than I was previously eating. And I didn't actually have my thyroid functioning properly. So there was a period of very fast weight gain. And I had to accept it. I had to let it come. I had swung the pendulum too far one way, and this was my body trying to course correct. And I really had to be okay with it. And it was really mentally tough for me, for my confidence, for how I felt about myself. And I leaned in. I decided to just trust the process. I did a lot of mental coaching and therapy with my therapist, Jordan. And I tried to stay active, not as a punishment, but as a gift to my body. I wanted to continue to work out and be healthy. And I started taking Revive supplement, the Thyroid Support, which has great things in it like selenium, iodine, and those are just natural nutrients that actually help with thyroid function. And I started doing the red light bed at Nobility Performance, and that again helps with thyroid activation, mitochondria activation, just to kind of wake things up. I was doing that 3 times a week. And I was cold plunging. I was trying to get my neck in to kind of help again stimulate the thyroid in the cold. And it worked. It took probably about 3 months, but my blood work started to come back normal. And I was really, really thankful. So after that happened, I kind of needed to decide what my relationship with my body and with eating and with working out was going to be. And I wanted it to be a beautiful, positive journey. I wanted to enjoy it. I didn't want it to be about the destination. And it always had been about the destination. It had always been about losing the weight and getting ripped and getting back into my size 26 jeans and getting back down to whatever, sub 150 pounds. And it was just always about the destination. And I remember I had a session with Jordan and she was like, we're here now. And like, things are stable emotionally, in your family, in your marriage, within yourself. So like, now how are you going to be good? Like, you're stable, you're okay, but how are you going to be great? And I got to really sit and think about it. And I was like, I don't want to have to go to the gym if I don't want to. And I don't want to have to do legs twice a week if I don't want to. And I want to enjoy my time, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's walking, whether it's Pilates, whether it's yoga, whether it's tennis, whether it's golfing, whether it's riding a motorcycle. I wanted to have a more positive outlook on being active. And that's what I've been doing. And it has made such a difference. I can't even explain to you. I started lifting weights again because I stopped that last year because I wanted to be skinny. I didn't want to have any muscle. And I love lifting weights. It feels good to lift weights. I feel like a badass when I lift weights. I like getting a pump and seeing my shoulders and my arms light up because I'm working out. I like pushing past failure when I'm training legs and squatting heavy and deadlifting heavy. And I started doing it again, and it is so fun, and I am so happy. I can't even explain it. And I don't even feel the pressure to get stronger every week. I don't feel the pressure to go 3 times a week. I literally just go when I feel like it. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. I know I do feel good when I do something to move my body every day. And some days that's going around and walking my dogs. Some days that's going to Pilates. Some days that's 12 hours riding a motorcycle. Some days that's going and training really heavy. Some days that's training with my husband. But I can just say that my relationship with being active is so healthy, and I'm so thankful for it. Everything that I do, I'm just so happy. Iain texted me today and was like, how's Pilates? And I was like, I'm so bad at it, but I'm so obsessed with it because it's so fun. It's just new and exciting. And when winter comes around, I want to go snowboarding, and I'm going to do tennis lessons with my best girlfriend. I just feel so much more positive about it, and I'm so thankful that I'm here. Now, my body image. I would be a big fat liar if I sat here and said that I'm so happy with how I look right now. I don't want to pretend. I don't want to pretend to myself. I don't want to pretend to you guys. I still am very self-conscious. I'm sure you can even see me moving around and adjusting my pants and my shirt right now. Even for me to sit here and not want to put on a big sweater for this video, it's very hard for me. But I also feel comfortable. And I've realized that I don't have to love every angle and love every piece of my body to feel comfortable in my body. So that's kind of the focus right now. It's feeling comfortable in my own skin, in my personality, in my body, being aware, being accepting. And I don't know, I just feel so okay. My body is still changing, and I'm happy about that, but I'm also happy that I'm here now. And I just am very thankful, and it's taken a lot to get here. It's taken a lot of deep work, kind of healing my childhood wounds and giving little Melissa a lot of acceptance and love and appreciation, and not comparing myself to others, because there's a lot of beautiful, fit women around me, and it's very easy for me to get down on myself because I don't look like her, or I don't look like her, and she looks better here, and I can't wear clothes like that, and I don't have a butt like that. And it's really easy to get in that cycle, but I'm just so thankful to be me, and I'm so happy to be me, and I can appreciate other women, and I can appreciate myself, and that's where I am. So I do think the most important thing when healing is to deal with the mental side of things, and to be patient, and to give yourself grace, and to figure out your why and really authentically lean into it. But there also are other things that can help if you're trying to heal your gut, if you're trying to heal your hormones, your thyroid. I really would suggest working with a practitioner that does blood work and does look at root cause issues. And I'll link Kale Diagnostics below. It's women run. They're amazing. They also work with men. They do blood work. They do stool samples. They do hair analysis. I'm sure they do genetic testing if that's something that you need. and they look at all the systems together to figure out where the root cause might be affecting everything. And that could be your gut. It could be your thyroid. It could be your hormones. It could be your detox pathways. It could be your environment. It could be mold. It could be anything. So first, I really do recommend doing that and finding out what you need before you just start adding in supplements or nutrients or food, whatever. But I will say the thyroid, if you have done blood work or you're struggling with low thyroid, the Revive Thyroid Support is such an amazing product. It truly works. I've seen blood work in multiple people. I've seen it in myself. I've also been using Chasteberry, which helps with progesterone production, and that has been a game changer for me. That's really important for fertility and honestly overall wellness for women. Progesterone is highly linked to our serotonin production. So for us to feel peaceful and safe and calm, it's very, very important. We have cortisol support, which helps a lot if you find that maybe your rhythm for your cortisol is off. So you really don't want your cortisol to be high at night. You want it to kind of peak in the morning and then gradually decrease in the evening. And people that train really hard, it's very common to get into a cycle of overtraining and then to get your cortisol dysregulated. So that's something that Revive can help you with. And then obviously there's the daily essentials that I do think everyone and their mother should be on, and that would be K2, D3, and an omega-3. Absolutely. So yeah, I hope this was informative. I hope this was funny and interesting and exciting. It's just a little bit of update of what's been going on with me. And yeah, I'm just so thankful that you guys are here. I'm thankful that I get to do this and I get to share my life with you guys. I did start vlogging, and I have 3 vlogs. And they're going to be on, I think I already talked about this on the podcast, but they're going to be behind a paid platform. They're going to be on Patreon. So if you guys want to subscribe to my Patreon, you can do that. I know I talked a little bit about some filler that I got, but I've already been talking for too long. So I'll talk about that on the next episode, what I've done to my face to make myself feel a little bit better. It's not drastic and it's not a big deal, but I did get some filler done with a new injector. So I'll share that next week. And I have an episode with Iain that we read Reddit stories, actually. It was really fun. That will be up next week. So that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for listening to Give Her. Remember, we're not just here to exist. We're here to live. And if you're going to live, you might as well live in love. So I hope you guys continue to do that, and I'll see you guys next week.